Oh yeah.
No, that's a made-up rule.
Oh wait. Okay, so any rule.
No. The real rule is you stick your shoes in the hole if you want to go first. I'm not joking. Everyone thinks I'm joking, but that's just like a Judah era thing. Judah and Aiden didn't like that rule.
Oh.
So they just like taught everyone to play without that rule. That's the rule since I was a child. Like this is an old game. Yeah, so you just like stand around the table, you say this is the turn order now, since we're all standing here, so it'd be like me, then you, then you, then him. And then back to me. And so like I would just throw the ball. As soon as I hit the 8 ball, because I get infinite throws. Then it's immediately Drake's turn. Drake has to run, get the white ball, then he has to get to a short side, throw it, hit the 8 ball. If the 8 ball stops, he gets a letter. No, you're not allowed to play his pets. Anthony, did you just like keep that in your pocket to brag? Yeah, I think you did.
No, my dad has like.
Okay, so if anyone gets a letter and they haven't had their clean shot yet, then we'll set it back up like this, and they can start the game over again. Same letters, but we just let them have infinite throws. When it's your turn and you run and grab that white ball, you also have infinite throws until it stops, or until you hit it.
What's behind that curtain?
The stage.
Should
We have 2 things going on in this room all week long. So like we do church here and then we do a school here, back and forth.
Is this a classroom?
Yeah, so this is actually the middle school classroom for middle schoolers at school. And we've got 3rd through 5th in this one, and then there's one past that that's kindergarten through 2nd grade.
Are those like the tables or like?
Yeah, these are their desks. We like pile them up when they're not doing school. And then there's actually 2 classrooms in here. We do one teacher that's English and history.
Yes,
And then one that's science and math. And so like half the class will be doing one of those subjects on each side of the room. And then they'll switch sides at some point in the day. And they'll go to the other teacher to do the other subjects.
So they don't like switch classrooms like how
Right.
we
It's
do?
2 classrooms in the same room. Isn't that
Oh.
weird? Does that make sense?
So, like,
So like
they
on a
don't
big
have-
campus, you would just go to the math room. It's like the room where math happens.
Yeah, like they don't have 5 minutes to leave.
No. It's like 5 minutes to switch sides. Yeah, so it's a little tricky. We got this wall that they stick up to kind of give like a little bit of a visual
It's like actually
sound barrier. It is. It's really helpful. He knows. He was here back when
It's
this room
heavy.
was like. Oh, you said heavy?
Yes.
Sorry.
I like looking at it.
He's been at the school for like a long time. We used to have, this is the only room. Those rooms weren't finished yet. And so in this room, they actually had like kindergarten to, was it all the way to 8th back then? Oh my God.
It's
Yeah,
still
kindergarten to 8th in one room. The school started small. It
There
was
was
crazy.
13 kids this year.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's pretty big now. We got over 60.
70.
We're moving towards 70. We have over 60.
Yeah, she says no middle.
I'm on the board. I know these things.
My middle school-
I have this spreadsheet with all your names on it. Yeah, there's 2 grades that are small this year, 8th and, is it 1st? I think it's 1st.
Yeah, there's like a 0. There's 2.
Yeah, 2, that's it. And then, yeah, but 6 and 7 are pretty big, and then kindergarten and 2nd are pretty big, so it kind of makes up for 1st. So it's pretty even across the board when you take the 3 grades together.
My school has like 100.
Yeah. Well, this is a private school, so it means the parents actually have to pay to bring their kids. So a lot of families are just like, oh no. But I think it's worth it. You guys get to have a lot of extra fun, and you get to learn in a totally different environment. It's completely different than a normal school. And the teachers are awesome. So.
Do you guys do like recess?
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, we got like a big field out there, basketball hoops. We're working on the playgrounds thing. Don't have a proper playground.
There's a
Well,
small teeter totter.
when we get a real playground, we want it to be for every age. We don't want it to be like, oh, sorry, middle schoolers, you're too big.
The teeter totter out there, like the middle school is
Yeah.
just like a rotated, just like push in until like, just like.
Does it actually spin free?
Yeah.
I didn't even think to try that. I just thought it was a seesaw.
It's like mindless scrolling and like
you go up and down.
It's like people who want TikTok.
Plus I'm too big, but.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so let's go like this. This will be the order. We'll go me,
But
him,
it's
him.
nice because
Okay, cool. Ready? Oh, and then if it's not your turn now or next, just put a little bit of space so someone can run in front of you. Does that make sense? Otherwise, they're going to have to go around you and they might miss their shot because you got your way. All right, here we go. You're next. Oh, okay, never mind. All right, so he missed. So he gets a serve, and then it'll be Drake's turn. Okay, so Anthony has a seat. So as soon as he hits, get that white ball. Go, go, go. Get it, and then get to the end before you throw. Good. And then it's your turn. Get the white ball. Get the white ball. Get to the end. Don't. No. Yep. That's the thing new players always forget. Okay.
If the white ball goes into that.
So that is a letter for you, and you can serve. For her. 'Cause she did a side shot.
Oh, so I serve it right here?
Yeah. There you go. And then it's my turn.
I love
Anthony and then Drake, you're next. It stops. Okay, so now it's CCC. And Drake gets a serve.
That's kind of ironic.
Okay, and then you're next. As soon as he hits, go get that white ball. Go. And then get to a short side to throw. Run! Run! You got it! Okay. And then, oh, it's my turn.
Daniel. Oh! Dang it.
Okay, so now Anthony has an R.
So do you want to get it in the hole?
Yeah, because it gives the next guy a letter, and since it's elimination, that means they lose faster.
Yeah, no.
You just don't want it to go in the hole before you hit it. It's your turn, Drake.
Wait, what?
It's Drake's turn. It's Drake's turn.
The white ball went in there.
Yes,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Oh, wait, I thought
You
that
just
was.
keep playing.
Oh, I thought that was a redo.
No. You have to run and get it.
Oh, that's another.
Okay, so that would mean Drake has an R now. And then it's your turn.
And she has her.
Okay, and now you have an R. And it was Chloe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Try and keep track. Okay, and now it's my turn.
No, Daniel, no. Oh!
Okay. Okay, so Anthony has a U, and it's Anthony's turn.
And then he's like, my mom's gonna. I'm losing because you're in front of me.
It's true. I made sure that you guys were. Oh! All right, and Drake has a U. Drake serve. Oh man, this is brutal.
I guess I'm gonna. Am I after?
You're next, Chloe. You want to get that white ball as soon as it hits. What's that?
Drake.
Oh, possibly, yes.
Drake, you're doing this on purpose.
You just gotta stare at the 8 ball. Stare at the 8 ball. Stare at the 8 ball. Oh! He's trying to test my infinite throws. Oh! I'm sorry to say that is a U for you. And it is your serve. She just didn't want to lose. She was so badly wanting to not lose. No, you still get a serve. Chloe. Yeah, you just have a letter also, so you have a U now.
Wait, Daniel, what do you have?
I have nothing.
Right.
Sadly.
Do it want letters?
No, I just meant I don't like screaming to new people. That's like kind of mean. But that was actually Drake's shot. Drake's out now.
You know?
Yeah, that was your D. See, now your D. Yes, but now you have to remember you're after Anthony because he fell out of the turnover.
Okay.
Okay?
I mean, next one out, I know it.
Okay, so that's a 2-player game.
Okay, because Daniel's obviously the one that's...
And Chloe gets the serve. I'm not trying to be mean, I swear.
Don't throw it this time.
Get to the end. Don't. You didn't make the shot. Go. Get it.
Get what?
You didn't contact it. Take your turn from the end. From the end. That's the side. So the first time you threw from the side, which is illegal. But it didn't.
Oh, so I had to stand here to throw?
You have to stand on one of the short sides to throw,
Okay.
and then when you threw it didn't connect, so it didn't count, so it wasn't illegal.
Oh.
So like you can only throw from the ends, but since you missed, you had another chance, so you needed to run around. But then when you ran around, you threw it from the side.
Wait, what happened if it went in?
If it went in without her contacting, it would still be me putting it in.
Daniel.
So do we
So,
restart the game?
yes, because that means all 3 of you are out.
Same
Oh,
order?
we could do. He wants to play a car racing game on the big screen. What do you guys want? You guys want to do a video game? You want to talk? You want to play cry? Did you have fun with cry?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
What if you throw it from the side and it hits the back?
Can we hit
And then
you
scoot over here.
That's fine if it didn't contact.
And then you scoot over here. No, but if it does contact, then it's contact. Yeah, and you get over here before it contacts.
Oh, no. You have to be on the side when you throw.
Can me and him play this while you guys play video game?
That's totally fine. You guys want to do a one-on-one? That's
Yeah.
fine. You get a lot more chances when you start the one-on-one as a one-on-one. Usually by the time it gets to one-on-one, you've got like 1 letter left.
Drake and it stopped. He lost. Wait, can you hook up this like an S?
No, not a 360 controller.
I like the.
Oh, I lost it.
Then you did it.
I have a letter. I do it from right here. It has to be from inside.
The shape hasn't changed.
It's not. No, Johnny, you
No,
have
they
to
don't
go
want
right here.
to.
No, I don't. If he said that.
Like they don't want you to be like, oh, this is so much worse than the old controller.
I mean,
They only ever change it a little bit.
This
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I think they realize people are going to that. Because like the people who make these things are such like elite gamers themselves. They don't always think of things that not elite gamers would run into. That's a shame.
Slowly,
That's all good.
We've done that many times. Like when we stopped.
Are you CR?
At my great grandma's house, she lives like up in the area.
Okay, I actually didn't check to see what I had installed.
like you do this.
But like, many.
But you know.
Okay, here's what we have right now.
Rick, you can't fool me. I have to come from here.
Yeah, I have CR.
Oh, you have
I
really?
do have a
Okay, so can you throw it from right here?
where's the rings? I like that.
Daniel, you're like, this is hard.
We can play it. It's so funny.
But then
Can you throw it from right here?
dragging you down.
No, but what if we like spots it?
Daniel.
What?
Can you throw it from right here?
No.
Okay, that's a Drake.
So I have a CR.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah, these ones I could download. There we go.
yes, sir.
CRU.
Put that on there.
Just butter them
I
out.
have
We
seen
didn't have in two tiny trailers next to this
Bro,
cracker
we
barrel.
saw.
Put it on there. My great grandma wouldn't
I have CRU.
Okay.
No, you have CRU. I have
Sure, it
CR.
had some car racing game. I don't know how to search for it because it's going to have some title that doesn't have car or racing in the
Oh,
title.
you have Gary's mom?
I could do a Colin Dixon box.
I don't know, it's sort of a gun game in addition to everything else.
I'll give you one more chance.
Is it Gary's mom?
So you have CRU.
I bought it so many years ago.
I think that's a
don't
reason.
remember.
No, I think it's one.
Okay.
No, I think that's a reason. So then it wouldn't do anything. I
But no, I still, no, the game still keeps going, so I have CRU.
Can I make?
I have CRU, both have CRU. Usually, you're already
There
out.
we go.
I get
There
it.
we go. Okay. Here's all the rings.
Well, I'm trying to get it in there.
So this is the main room.
upstairs.
I used the elevator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they got games and
Hello. Hello again.
so he just wanted to come look at it, but he's gonna hang out with his uncle downstairs this
That's
time.
fine. That's
But I wanted him to come up and see how fun it looks.
Right on. Could you guys open the curtains and pull out some chairs before you get your hands full of Bible?
She's saying first. And we were all like,
Oh.
Grab the white string.
This is the one I want.
There you go. Now walk.
I want to show you.
she was so mad.
Okay, so Zeep Kids is very strange. Zeep Kids is a word from
No, you should say.
probably, but they say it's Zeep Kids. Even though it's spelled this way. And it's actually part of like the Red Bull games now. Yeah, have you guys ever seen the Red Bull competitions? Where like they make you run up with what wings you made out of
Elevator.
cardboard feathers and stuff? And like you see a photo of like wings you made. Yeah, they do. All the time. Tons of them. They just fall. There's one. They have ones where there's like a giant pole that just like sticks out off of the dock and just keeps going like 30 feet out. And you fly on it. And you have to try and run all the way out of the pole. But like it progressively gets narrower. And then there's Zippy, which is soapbox racing. So do you guys know what soapbox racing is?
Wait, can you drive? Like, can you like press up the trigger and go?
You can steer.
Wait, yes.
There's no engine. There's no motor in the car.
What's so weird about that?
Because the whole idea is that in most car games, it's all about like gotta brake, gotta hit the gas, you gotta be the right speed to take that turn. And this one, like if you brake too much, you might not finish the level. Like you might run out of momentum. Oh, I didn't put it on the same screen.
Is that a multiplayer game?
It has
Oh, I've
a
seen
lot
this game
of
before.
online and
Have you seen this game before?
online, but it also has multi-single.
Like you ride in like a car?
And the weird thing is, when you can play online, none of the cars are tangible to you, so you can't run into each other. But in single system multiplayer, yeah, you can absolutely run into each other.
Wait, can you get the two?
Here you go. Okay.
Wait,
Yeah, this one has a battery. You pick the wrong one.
no, you're doing great.
No!
Oh, why'd you not? It's only something I had it. Oh, there we go.
Alright, I think you got one more.
Can I see on this?
Wait, why is it not turning on?
Yeah,
Oh, I might not have the receiver on it.
yes, it's flashing.
Okay. Turn the receiver on.
Okay, what's next spot over here? We doing it. Wait, Daniel, is it joy? Is it joystick? Daniel.
Is the receiver on it? Here's my controller.
Is it thumbstick or
It's something for you.
I'm assuming I'm gonna end up making
No.
arrow keys lost 8, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, I'm in. I'm player one. It's not letting me hit it.
Yeah.
Got 2 changes.
That's all.
Okay, the receiver's on. Is it?
Oh, now I can see it. Okay. Wait. I think everyone can do it.
Split screen.
Okay, now it should work. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so don't hit A bunch of times. Actually look through all the options. You can pick your color.
Which one am I?
And you just gotta look at the
You just
bottom
gotta see.
to see what color is the color, because they don't even bother naming the colors.
Carter, I found a black one. So you're the last one. Which one the heck? I'm the second one. Ooh, 15. Try it. Oh, okay. Check out my soapbox. Okay, I found out which one I am. Who's the cheese?
That's me.
Okay, Carter, check out my shoe. Probably me this one. Which one? Are you the one with the eyeballs? Yeah. I'm the one right next to it. Okay.
Okay, so then the last choice is, are you ready? You just flip that DS and then we can start when everyone said they're ready. So, if you guys didn't hear the spiel, this is Zapekist. There's no engines in the cars.
So you kind of just running?
So you have to run the track like with momentum, and you have to like not brake too hard. If you brake too hard, you're gonna like not finish
Wait,
the
so
level.
you have to like go down, if you're going down a hill.
You have
make
to
sure
keep
you
your
don't-
speed,
You have
and,
to
like,
keep that speed that
You have to keep that speed. There are speed boosts on the level, so if you find like little dashy arrows all going in one direction, like those will actually give you another speed boost.
Oh, okay.
But you do also have to be careful. Sometimes there's more speed arrows than you need,
Oh, yeah.
and if you take them all, you'll go careening into a wall.
Yeah. And then, like, how sensitive is the turning? Is that something?
You'll see, and turning slows you down.
Oh, yeah.
So like if you just spend your whole time steering, it's gonna
You're gonna get way slower.
actually like make you slow.
So when there's a straightaway, you have to take the straightaway. Don't start turning a bunch.
Yeah. Okay, so here's level 1, just so you guys can kind of get the gist of the game.
French fry. I'm the.
Try and find your car.
I found my. How do you go forward?
And remember, you can knock into each other,
automatically goes
so be
forward.
really careful. You don't knock into each other too much, because your wheels will hook up.
You're only turning. Okay.
No, not. This is not church. This is just hang out at the beginning. We're gonna study the Bible in a few seconds. Just gonna do a couple levels, give some people some turns.
Bro, Harley, you hit me off the track. I'm just steering, like you said.
Yeah, totally. So if you crash, you just start. You just wait for everyone else to crash, and then you'll get another turn. And we'll see if any of us can actually finish the level.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So some of us got to checkpoint 1. Some of us did not.
Yeah, I got
At
hit
the
on-
beginning, if you try and mess each other up, you're probably gonna get messed up.
Look at my
So at the
french
beginning, you
fries.
probably want to like not bonk into each other if you can help it.
Hey.
No, I got sent off the track again.
Carter.
I keep getting hit by other people. How do you brake?
B,
What?
Or sugar.
the trigger,
What trigger?
the left trigger.
Oh, those ones. So then to brake, you just move it back.
Who's the other guy? I'm in the bottom right.
Yeah, it's me.
It's Daniel versus
Anthony's winning.
versus Daniel. How is Anthony so good at this game?
I don't know, man.
I
He's
crashed.
a pro league gamer.
No, I didn't crash.
I did. I got a tie. Okay. If you have finished, go ahead and hand your controller off
I
to
did
someone who
not
hasn't
get
got to
to
play.
finish. Try?
Yeah. If you finished, Anthony, go ahead and hand your controller off to someone.
Yeah, Drake. Take one.
Come on, Drake hasn't got to play. Come on.
Alright.
We'll play again next week.
Okay,
like,
I'm
without
gonna watch-
Fred,
I'm gonna watch.
and we'll have more time to play. Okay. Someone hit Y, and then go over to retry,
Okay.
and then just hit A. There you go. And
do you
then so
go?
Drake, you're in the bottom right. Chloe, you're in the top left.
Okay.
And remember, if you bonk into each other, you're probably gonna crash.
Which one am
Guys, stop
I?
You're the cheese. You're the cheese wedge.
Leave me alone.
What's a cheese wedge?
It's a wedge of cheese.
Oh, that's me?
That's you.
How do you
Oh,
brake?
I'm going fast. I thought I was one of the.
How do you brake?
Yeah, and then left trigger's brake.
How do you speed boost?
There's no speed boost on this particular track.
Drake, which one is
But there
Drake?
is drafting. So if you're directly behind another player, you'll see blue and white lines. That's you getting a speed boost from their
Who is
aerodynamics.
joining me?
Oh no, Chloe's about to crash and die. Oh, you can do it, Chloe. You can do it. She's pulling back out of it. You just
Wait,
gotta.
did she lose both?
Bye.
She's lost the front right and the back left. She's bouncing on 2 diagonal wheels.
I lost my wheels. How?
How are you still alive, Chloe?
How am I still lose? I don't know.
How am I still alive? Where am I going? This is the part where I messed up.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe Chloe's pulling this off.
Wait!
No, Chloe!
I got the best time
Chloe
ever.
got the wall.
I got the world record.
Go, 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 go!
Oh, we
I
got
did
some
it.
finishers.
It's not
Nice.
letting
Okay, if you finished, hand it off to someone who hasn't played yet.
Wait, where
Very
am
nice,
I?
guys. And then someone press Y, go over to retry, and then hit A.
Wait, which one am I?
I don't know.
You're
gotta figure it out,
French
then
fry.
go.
You're the French fry.
Whoever grabbed it from me. I'm in the lead.
Oh no, green and French fries are totally tangled. Oh, French fry broke through. He broke through. Oh no, Chloe got thrown. Chloe is falling to the earth. Bye, Chloe. Wait, Chloe, you're alive. How are you alive,
I don't
Chloe?
know. It won't let me go forward.
Yeah, you're just stuck in reverse now.
He's gonna win again.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I got to stop.
Am I the only one going?
Yeah, there's no engine, so you can't speed
It's literally
yourself
just
up.
Anthony gonna try and finish the course alone.
But he could mess up.
It's
He
actually
could get a hay bale. Hay bales will automatically steal one of your wheels.
What do you do?
no. He beat my score.
Oh no, wait, sorry, that's not regular hay bales. That's barbed wire hay bales. I don't know what the regular ones
He
do. I
beat
think they
my
just mess with
score.
them. All right, so Anthony, you should hand it off again.
No, wait, but the round already started.
Okay, guys, don't push me.
I see how it is. Anthony. I see how it is.
He beat my score.
I'm gonna win this. No.
Stop.
Oh, that's so much tangle.
I'm in the lead.
Oh, cheese wedge out in front. Way to go, Chloe. Way to stay free of the boys' fiasco.
Wait,
Oh, they're launching you from behind.
No, my tire!
Oh wait, I got
This
slowed
game needs
down.
some chill music in the background.
No.
It's kind of,
I casually just have one tire on.
Is this game like a free-to-play thing?
No, it's
I
like a
can't
one guy made it.
move.
It's his whole life right now, so he's definitely charging for it. It's just not that expensive. I found it on Humble Bundle in a pack of go-kart games.
Okay.
But I've been watching some streamers play this for a long time because the
I'm still
online
going.
level designing community is really big right now. There's a ton of people making levels.
How am I still How am I
Yeah,
only
I was gonna say,
Look out for cats.
I have a PC.
Yay! Good job, French fries. Was that Anthony? Oh,
Yeah.
darn it, Anthony. All right, let's try continue. Let's pick another level. Let's go level 2.
Wait, can I try this?
No, Anthony.
Anthony, you played the most. You played the most. I gotta check the clock.
I won every time.
Yeah, it's time to get started. This is the last round.
I won all
And
of
your
them.
French fry.
Wait, can we do one more round? I want to try this.
We're good.
Come on, Carter.
I lost my wheel.
I know how to drift. Remember the brake button?
Yeah. Press Y. Press Y.
Dodge it.
Everything just shot up. What happens if you hit a
Who's the green
cat?
guy?
It'll mess you up.
Carter.
It won't like auto death you, but it'll make you bounce
Come
off
on, Carter.
it.
You got it.
Wait, what will happen to the cat?
The cat will also bounce
I'm
off.
not-
It's just pure physics. They don't die. They just get bonked, and you get bonked.
Well, I won.
Dude, you did it!
I did.
First try.
Oh, look out for the cat! Also, the cats are legit random. They're never in the same place twice.
Daniel, that was super clear.
It was. It's time to get a Bible! Put your controllers up on the show!
That was fun.
I'm going all the wrong ways. Alright, Anthony. Quit touching. Anthony, it's not your computer. I know, it'll show itself off. Don't worry about it.
Torch time. Daniel, it's torch time.
Alright, guys, grab your Bible!
Yeah, I beat the second level.
Bro, I beat everyone in the first plane. I love those games.
What do I do with this?
I know, I beat the second one first try. I was going extremely slow because I was going at 150 miles an hour and then I had to slow myself.
You were going 150?
Yeah. And then I had to slow myself down, like way down, and I started drifting. Like a
You guys want
hundred.
more
Gosh, in level 1, this dude someone just plowed into me like I almost lost me over the
Especially now the school's here.
I want
It's
to
very unlikely we'll ever run out of chairs, really.
talk to you about something.
That's allowed.
What happens if we do run out of chairs?
We'll just borrow some Hope Cabin chairs.
What happens if we run
It would be very unlikely to run out of that many chairs. I think eventually you're gonna have to hit like the 110 max capacity that the fire marshal allows in the room.
Oh my gosh, but Aiden is good.
Wait, what if you get more than that? It's not like they're gonna like quote unquote come.
No, they won't even know you did it. It's like they've done some math on how big our doors are and how many doors we have. And in the event of a fire, they calculate that if you have over 110, someone's dying.
Wait, what Jack?
So that's why they do that capacity check. They're like they have a certain time in mind on like a stopwatch, and they can run the calculation on the door size and the time they know it takes for people to move out of the room.
Lunchtime.
Oh, that was just how
Three, four, eight.
So, like, they also in certain rooms that we do, they'll give us 2 capacities, one for rows of chairs and one for tables. Because the calculation for how fast they can get out of the room is different. If there's a bunch of tables.
Daniel, can you say announcements?
What do you mean to announce?
Because I want to say that.
I'm good.
Daniel, can I buy all of
Say
your Cokes
announcements.
with one of my hundos?
I don't have any announcements.
Daniel, Daniel,
Yes.
Can I go get a drink of water?
Yeah, man, go ahead. You don't
Can I buy all of your Cokes with my hundo?
No, we're done buying and selling stuff.
Your hundo?
He has a $100 bill and he's like super proud of it. He's like flashing it all over the place.
You have
He's like super,
Yeah, that's
super
a
jazzed.
good way to get it stolen.
All right, so we've been going through First Chronicles.
All right, bring it in.
We've been going through First Chronicles for a few weeks now. Some of you guys know the drill. Some of you guys are new and you don't know the drill. Oh, and you don't know the drill on phones. Dun, dun, dun. It's phone bucket time. Everyone, put your phone in a bucket. Phones in the bucket. Drake, are you okay? Drake, are you okay? Hey, Chloe, you should put your phone in the bucket before you lose it. Hurry up.
I'm not.
Is it on silent? I need to know.
Yes.
Oh, good. Anyone else got a phone? Put it in the bucket.
No, I don't have my phone. Where did you put your phone in
Is
the
it on
bucket?
silent?
It's like a whole satchel with them.
It should be on silent.
There we go. Anyone else? Yes, no, yes, no?
Wait, I need to check mine on silent.
You need to check if it's on silent. Because now you're questioning since I asked you. You're like,
Hopefully mine's
it wasn't.
So it does.
I'm glad you checked.
Wait, let me see.
Mine on
Oh
silent.
my gosh.
I put mine on silent before I left home. Because I was like,
Are you not sure what yours is?
so dirty.
My phone never buzzes.
Oh, you just put it off silent. I know which way to push it. I don't even own an iPhone.
You want? Don't you have an iPhone?
You have a Google Pixel?
Yeah.
No.
Do you have like two?
Yeah, I have a Google Pixel.
You have like 2 phones.
I have,
a Google Pixel.
well, if you count all the old half-dead phones I have that don't take a charge anymore, I've got like 9 phones. I'm an old dinosaur of a human. I bought the first Android phone when it came out.
Facts.
Wait, did you get the Galaxy Note 6? Wait,
No. I had the G1. G1.
isn't that the
No,
one
Anton,
that's
it's
exploding?
No. This was before exploding phones even existed.
Is that what the
way too old
Nokia?
for that.
Is that wait? Did you ever get the Nokia?
No. Emily has a Nokia right now, but
Yay!
Hers is
have you broken it?
legit.
Have you broken it?
Have I broken it?
No. You're thinking of the wrong Nokia. She has a plastic flip phone. Yeah. Yeah. Question from Chloe.
Drake said that
I don't
he
think that's a
said that you
question.
get a prize if your phone doesn't fall out.
It's close to that actually. He's not wrong. At the end of the service, we take all the phones in the bucket and we slowly, and like not looking, slowly let them fall out of the bucket onto the carpet, and then whichever phone is last in the bucket does get a prize.
Told you.
It's gonna be mine, guys.
It could be. It could be. Glitter is very helpful in sticking to buckets.
Okay.
She's starting to believe me about things. This is dangerous.
What if we
This is
put
dangerous. I gotta put it to
glue
good
on
use quick. All right, so we've been in First Chronicles for a while. Some of you guys know that drill. Some of you guys are new. So try and pay attention real fast. Peanut gallery. So First Chronicles, way back here in the Old Testament, written around 450 BC, but it's covering events way before 450 BC. Notice this 450 BC over here. Yeah, it's covering events over the way back here. We went from 1 Samuel to 1 Chronicles because 1 Samuel's written more like a journal, 1 Chronicles written more like a history book, and they throw in some stuff that you would miss in 1 Samuel because they've seen more happen. They have more vantage points to draw from, and they give it some context. They actually have some pastoral notes as you go through 1 Chronicles, so we jumped over to 1 Chronicles. So written around 450, occurring around 1000. We're going to cover chapters 13, 14, and 15 today. We're going to go pretty quick. All right, now just to give you a context for where we're talking about in the world, this is Chico. We're going to go ahead and zoom on out and show you where this is taking place.
How do you
Takes place in Alaska.
It's not Alaska, guess again.
Liar. It's Alaska.
Africa? How did you do this?
This is just Google Earth, the old version of Google Earth that installs on your PC.
Oh, wait a minute. This is
It's a website now. It's
Do you
kind
like
of
screen
things.
recording?
Yeah. Well, there's an export function in Google Earth.
is Australia.
It's super slow though, because it doesn't take as many modern compression cards.
Wait, why is it Mike
All right.
here?
This is where modern day. This is where modern day Israel is. The purple outline. Carter, I'm telling you to be quiet, and you're still talking. While I'm telling you to be quiet. This is where modern day Israel is too, but this purple outline is Israel under King David. Now at chapter 13, it probably wouldn't have been this big yet. But we don't have a good map for exactly what it looked like right when David took the throne. We pretty much just have the map of what David eventually conquered. So eventually David, as king, is going to get all this land. Right now though, I think the big chunks he doesn't have yet are probably like, this is lightly contested, this is probably contested. I know the coastline here is not theirs. The Philistines still have this whole coastline. And then this is probably not theirs, probably contested. I think it only went around that far down back when he took the throne. So a lot of this isn't his yet, but he's working on it. He's working on it. We're actually going to see some of those battles that get him some of that land today. Okay, so chapter 13, read with me those first 8 verses. If you haven't found it yet in your Bible, it's page 348. Most of you guys did find it.
I landed on
Anthony,
it.
put away the money, take out the Bible.
I landed on it.
There are only so many words on a $100 bill that you can read so many times.
So where are you at $1 bills?
Well, you shouldn't read each one independently. They all say the same thing.
What's the different years?
Page 348, starting in chapter 13. David consulted with all his officials, including the generals and captains of his army. Then he addressed the entire assembly of Israel as follows. Now, at this point, the entire assembly of Israel is all of the military men. They've all come for the coronation of David. There are some people who are not in the military, but it's at least all of the military men. So this is several 100,000 people all camped out in the plains around Jerusalem. And he is discussing it all with all of them. If you approve, and if it is the will of the Lord our God, and I love that it's both here, let us send messages to all the Israelites throughout the land, including the priests and Levites in their towns and pasture lands. Let us invite them to come and join us. It is time to bring back the ark of our God, for we neglected it during the reign of Saul. The whole assembly agreed to this, for the people could see it was the right thing to do. Someone didn't hit silence.
That's what that was.
What is that?
Dylan, it's Sunday at 11:30. We're in church again. Gotta like get used to that schedule.
Whose phone is
All
that?
right.
So who's
Who was
think someone's paying Dylan to call at 11:35. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. I'm looking at Anthony because he's got all the money, but I don't think it was his phone.
It was Drake's phone.
She turned it on. She turned it on.
No, I didn't.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't
I'm pretty sure Drake, you turned it on.
I did not.
All right, guys, let's go back. Verse 4. The whole assembly agreed to this, for the people could see it was the right thing to do. So David summoned all Israel from the Shihor brook of Egypt. That's this little blue line down here. Sorry, I lost my spot. Of Egypt in the south, all the way to the town of Lebo Hamath in the north, which is on the map, to join in bringing the ark of God from Kiriath Jearim. Then David and all Israel went to Bala of Judah, also called Kiriath Jearim, to bring back the ark of God, which bears the name of the Lord who is enthroned between the cherubim. I gotta pause this for a second because this would be nuts. Okay. These are hundreds of thousands of soldiers who've come for David's coronation. He talks to all of them, they all agree, they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then they're all gonna go to Kiriath Jearim, which is a small town. It's like a farming village. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then they all go. So, I don't know if you can kind of picture like farmers out in the fields early in the morning, they're just slicing some grain off the stalks, or they're walking their cow, or whatever it is farmers do, and all of a sudden, 300,000 soldiers just come tromping down the road. I'd be a little freaked out. Like, I wouldn't necessarily know who they were on sight, right? Like, you know, they're a mile off. I could probably still see them or hear them, and I wouldn't know who they are. They just look like ants covering the land, you know, a swarm of locusts. And I'm in this little tiny village. I'd probably like boarding up the windows back at home, trying to lock the doors. And they're just coming to get the Ark of the Lord. So that's actually kind of cool. But we're going to see there's some problems with this plan. Yes?
Yeah. So, what is it David?
David's the king. That's who the main character here is.
If he's talking to hundreds of thousands of people, is he just like screaming?
That's a really good question. So, there's a little bit of research done into how people in ancient times addressed lots of people, but not this particular situation, right? The research they've done is generic. It's not this. So I could make some guesses based on that, but it's a guess. I really don't know. There's two methods we see in history, depending on which point in history, which part of the country, or sorry, which part of the world you're in. So one of them is you would do a slow speech in sections, and there'd be repeaters. So the king would say it, and then 100 feet away, there'd be like guys fanned out, like a guy there, a guy there, a guy there, a guy there, 100 feet away, and they'd be listening to the king, and then they'd turn around and say it out that way. And then there'd be repeaters 100 feet back from them. And they would all listen, and then they would all say it. And so like in waves, the whole group would hear it. And at some point, David can hear when you can no longer hear the repeaters. And they might still be repeating like, you know, 500-600 feet that way, but you can't hear him anymore right where he is. So he'll say the next part. You don't have to wait for it to get to the back. You just have to wait for it to get out of earshot. And then you can say the next part. And so the whole speech ripples through the hundreds of thousands of people. Okay, so that's one method we've seen in history. The other one is you just actually don't give your speeches until you find the right landscape. And you actually take advantage of the landscape. There are landscapes where you can get on a high plain where there's a wall going around behind you, and then all the people can sit down low on the valley floor, and the walls around you will actually take your voice, and as it spreads out sideways from your mouth, it gets shot towards them.
Like an auditorium.
Like an auditorium. So depending on how many people you're addressing, when you get to certain points in history, they just build auditoriums for a few thousand people. But this is hundreds of thousands. That's not auditorium size. That's a whole valley floor or repeaters. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's other methods you could use that don't necessarily fit the description. So I don't think they use
Morse
those.
code.
But you could literally just write down the message. And then you have copiers. So you have like a guy who makes 2 from 1, and you have several of those. And so quickly you can get from 1 copy to like 30 copies. And you just like run around the whole crowd of hundreds of thousands reading out the speech. So David doesn't even give the speech all those times. He writes the speech.
Just writes it down, gives everybody.
And then there's like people who go out and they announce what it says. Now it doesn't fit the description, so I don't think they use that one. But that's an option. It's at least possible. They did have writing at this point in history, although it was pretty new technology. It was existent. So, all right, back into the text. So pause there at that point. I just wanted you to realize like this is hundreds of thousands of troops all coming to one little village to get the ark, and that's kind of freaky. Then we pick up at verse 7. They placed the ark of God on a new cart and brought it from Abinadab's house. Now, I'm sorry to pause again, but it says Uzzah and Ahio were guiding the cart. this is actually a problem. Does anyone know why that's a problem?
Because those are demons from the nether realm.
No. It's a good guess. It's a good guess. They have weird names, but no, they were not demons. They were not from any realm besides the one that everyone else was
Because
from.
they're not trusted?
No, not because they're not trusted.
Because
They're deadly. They kill people.
Well, let's keep reading. Let's see if you guys can figure
If
it
you
out.
guys have watched the...
David and all Israel were celebrating before God and all their might, or with all their might, singing songs and playing all kinds of musical instruments, lyres, harps, tambourines, cymbals, and trumpets. But when they arrived at the threshing floor of Nakon, the oxen stumbled, and Uzzah reached out his hand to steady the ark. Then the Lord's anger was aroused against Uzzah, and he struck him dead because he had laid his hand on the ark. So Uzzah died there in the presence of God. Okay, so one of the problems is a cart is automatically a jostly thing. I drove all the way to Yuba City last night. We're building a house up in Paradise, and our Lowe's ran out of the tile we liked. We went and saw it at Lowe's, we liked it, we decided to buy it, but I didn't buy it that day. I went back to buy it later, and it was all gone. But the Yuba City Lowe's had it. And then we wanted some flooring, like some wood floorboards, and we found the ones we liked, but our Lowe's didn't have enough. We needed 59, and they had 50. So the Yuba City Lowe's had them again. So I went down to Yuba City to pick up tile and flooring and stuff, and I loaded it all in the trunk, and I've got it all in there, and like, it was not easy to load it in, because I was just driving our Subaru, and I hit the brakes at one point, and one of the boxes of flooring, which weighs like 20, 30 pounds, came from the back. I could hear it going, and it went right through the two seats in the front, down the armrest, and nailed my elbow at like 20 miles an hour. It was not pleasant, not pleasant. And then I take off again, and it goes, and I hear it hit the trunk wall, and it goes, boom. I'm like, this is not great. So when I hit my next stop, I rejiggered everything. But in that drive too, I went over some train tracks. You know, like where the road's like this, and the little hump for the train tracks is like that? So like I go over the train tracks, and as I go over, the back end of the trunk gets that little like weightless feeling. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you ever sat in the back seat, it's like, whoa. The flooring literally floated up into the air, and then came down, whack, and I heard a pop go off like a gunshot. The top tile of my bathroom tile, like crack shattered. Like the big crack went through, and then like it split into 5 other pieces because the flooring came down on it like that, just like this big old whack. It was such a scary thing to hear when you're like, just driving down the road. But I kind of instantly knew what had happened. I was just crestfallen. Like, not only did I poorly load the trunk such that I bruised my, actually, yeah, I was going to exaggerate there, but no, that's a bruise. That I bruised my elbow, but now I've broken one of my tiles. And like, I counted out how many tiles I needed. So like, I have to go buy that tile again. Like, luckily they took it back. They let me return it, which was very cool. But, rolling on wheels feels smooth. But I've got shock absorbers. Like, I've got rubber tires. They didn't have either of those. So it is automatically not a great idea to transport boxed goods on wheels at this point in history. It is a dangerous thing. So there's that. But there's a further problem if you know your history. If you know your Bible. God literally made a rule, like a few hundred years before this, don't put my ark on a cart. He just made it a rule. You should not put my ark on a cart. Just told him, flat out. And I know that's like a weird level of detail from God, but like he does that about the things that are very important to him. He gives us all of the details. And then the things that are like less important, he'll give us like 1 or 2 details maybe. And the things he doesn't think are important, he just doesn't even talk about. He just skips the things he doesn't think are important. Just leaves it out. But for something he thinks is important, his very throne on this earth, the detail list is long. He actually had them make 2 specifications, 2 poles that you slide into 4 rings that you use to lift up the ark only if you're born from a particular family. Certain poles made to certain specifications that can only be held by certain people. He was that specific. And they had a really good heart, a really good desire to bring his throne to the center of their nation, to bring it to a place where everyone could come and worship, to bring it to a place where everyone would know where to find it and come and worship God. Like, that's a great heart. But it would kind of be like me thinking you would enjoy a particular concert, and I kidnap you to take you to that concert. And I just leave you in the trunk the whole way there.
Depends on what concert it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it really does.
How much does it matter what concert it is if you're bonking around bouncing in the trunk the whole time?
I
What
mean,
if you're
I
what
get
if it's
to see the
Aqua?
person and
Like
have my
if I
phone
like
be
if it's
able to-
Aqua, I'd much rather be walking around.
You guys would be fine with being kidnapped and thrown in a trunk the whole way there if it was a good concert?
Yeah, it was like an actual good concert. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, you'd be happy about the concert. Would you be happy about your treatment?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would.
It's an experience.
I really thought that
least I
analogy
get
was
to go.
bad. I'm so sorry. I honestly thought that was
If
bad.
you like, yeah, it really like.
Okay, that's, whatever.
Yeah.
Now it would
I
be
guess.
better to have video games. in the
I'm
car.
not a teenager though.
He's like I'm 12.
You're a teenager.
He's actually fine in the trunk just playing Among Us. He's like in the chat. I have been kidnapped. Please send help. All right, I thought that analogy worked. Okay, so the point is, this is God's throne, and they're moving in a way He told them, please don't. Please don't do that. And that's what they chose to do. And this is interesting because look how it opened. Do you guys remember how it opened? David asked the whole crowd, he says, if you approve and if it is the will of the Lord our God. He said both those. And then they went against his actual wish list. This isn't like he said, my favorite way is the poles. Please use the 2 poles to move my box around. He said, the poles are the only way you get to move the box around, and please don't put it on a cart. I think the way he actually phrases it, not please don't, he says, shall never be put on a cart. I think that's the way he phrases
That's
it.
good. If he says please don't.
Yeah, it wasn't a
can
please
put it on
don't.
the poles.
I was
and-
paraphrasing.
You can put it in the pole. You can put it on
So-
the poles and then on the cart and then.
If you say the phrase, if it's the will of the Lord our God, you need to be oh so careful, because God is not going to come down from heaven, part the clouds, and remind you of the things He's already told you as you make that statement. If you make the statement, if it's the will of God, and then you do something you know, or should know, is against the will of God, it's going to go poorly for you. There's been many times that many Christians have prayed a prayer. Lord, if it is your will, open these doors, help me with this thing, make my plan come true, Lord, if it is your will. A lot of people pray that way. And there's a problem if the thing you're asking for is something you should already know is against His will. Do you get it? If you're asking for something you're not sure about, right? If you're asking for something you have no clarity on, and you couldn't possibly have clarity on, it's just not something you find in Scripture that you're asking about, that's fine. Ask for Him to reveal His will to you. Great. But if you ask for His blessing, if you ask for Him to say, okay, I'm with it, to something He already said no to,
It's basically just like going to one parent, asking them a question, they say no, and going to the other parent and
it's
asking
exactly
the same
like
thing.
that, yeah. It's exactly like that. Or, I mean, to be a little more literal, it's kind of like going back to the first parent and asking again
Oh yeah.
after they said no. Like, what kind of answer are you going to get? Right? They already
Imagine they
said
said yes.
no.
They magically would just say yes. They like change their brain. They're like, oh, okay, yes.
Yeah. So, this is not great. It's not great. They put it on the cart. They knew they shouldn't put it on the cart, or at least they should have known they shouldn't have put it on the cart. And He gets all the priests together. And this is good, because the priests and the Levites are the ones who would know these rules the best. Don't put it on a cart. That was given to the Levites. To take it around on those poles. That was their job. They should have known better. Yeah, Anthony.
What if it was something on wheels that wasn't a cart?
Yeah. So at least if it was on like a mule or something, then it wouldn't be double breaking of God's will. So like if you pick some other random transport method, like ropes through the rings or something, then at least you were only breaking one command. Please use the poles. But you weren't breaking both. Use the poles, don't use the cart.
What if you were to like hog through the poles like to the bottom and just like carry it like that?
That's just goofy. Okay, move on with me. Verse 10 we've done. Now we're going to verses 11 through 14. David was angry because the Lord's anger had burst out against Uzzah, and he named the place Perez Uzzah, which means to burst out against Uzzah. Which is correct. I know that's correct because there's other places in the Bible where someone gets named Perez, and it means to burst out. As it is still called today. So at the time of the writing this in 1 Chronicles, point in history, 450 BC, the place named back in 1000 BC had the same name. It was Perez Uzzah back in 1000 BC, it was Perez Uzzah in 450 BC. Does that kind of make sense? Like 550 years have gone by, same exact name for the place. They've kept that name.
Wow, surprised they didn't change it by one letter.
Can you imagine like if a place got named after you being killed?
No.
That would be super weird, right? Or like if it was your uncle, and like for generations now, that's the spot where my uncle died, and we don't call it the spot where my uncle died. We name it Bob Island, and everyone's like, why is it called Bob Island? It's the island my uncle died on. That'd be really kind of twisted. Everyone who asks about it would be really weirded out when they find out. Like, wait, why is it called that?
Well, that
That's
person
what
has a
Bob
super weird, very long German name.
They have those. Germans like to make words out of sentences. It's very strange.
Yes, they do.
It's a fun little pastime
Like
there.
you say hi, and it's just like.
David was now afraid of God, verse 12, and he asked, how can I ever bring the ark of God back into my care? So David did not move the ark into the city of David. Instead, he took it to the house of Obed-Edom of Gath. The ark of God remained there in Obed-Edom's house for 3 months, and the Lord blessed the household of Obed-Edom and everything he owned. This is an interesting little twist in the story. David's plan felt so good to David at the start, he just went for it. Like, he just brought all the soldiers and went for it. And then as someone dies, it hits him. I'm not actually on the same level with God. I don't really see eye to eye with him right now, because clearly if I wanted this thing so bad and he was for it, then Uzzah wouldn't be dead. So I was so convinced in my own head that I knew what God wanted, but I was so wrong about what God wanted. Someone died. This freaks David out, and it makes him actually afraid of God. That he could feel so close and yet miss the mark so much. Does that make sense? Like, it's almost like going out for a basketball team and you're absolutely certain you're good at basketball, and then when you go for the tryout, it turns out you are terrible at basketball. You convinced yourself. Before you got there, you were dead certain, I am a pro. I have got this. I know what I'm doing. I am the best in Chico.
I am the best in Chico.
Easily.
That's what he
And then you show up and you don't even make the team.
Yeah, that's
I made the team though.
That's sort of like, you think you're up here and all of a sudden you find out you're down here. This is where David is right now. But the problem is it's not him making a team. It's him versus something stronger than him. He thought he was on God's team, and then God showed him, you didn't even talk to me. You didn't even check what I'd written. David, you didn't ask me. This freaked David out. He thought he could just tell what God wanted. He didn't need to talk to God. That's not a good standard. You should not live that way. It doesn't matter if you've been a Christian for 10 minutes, 10 years, or 100 years. You will never get to a point where you know God so well you shouldn't have to talk to him. You will never get to a point where you know God so well that you could just guess his will 100% of the time. The reason is because God is not a fixed thing. He's not a thing. He's a person. Now, he's unchanging. His opinions don't go in and out, up and down. His opinions don't change because culture changed. But he's a person. So, just because he's a person, you should be checking with him. Just because he's a person, you should be talking with him. Boys, hands to yourself. Thank you. Just because he's a person means you should be asking him for his opinion, his position on things, his preference, because it's rude not to. And it's such a cool thing when you think you know what he wants and you talk to him and it turns out you did know what he wants. That's actually really fun. To think you know the heart of God, to guess at the heart of God, and then talk to him and find out you were right. That's a blessing. It feels so good. Because then you're like, I do actually know God. I know God well enough. I can actually see down the road and I can guess what he's going to say.
But don't get too much confidence.
Don't take confidence from it. Take encouragement from it. Because it's a test that you're passing. That doesn't mean if you're really good at math, you don't need to go take the test. You get what I'm saying? Like, you could be the best, math lead at your school. If you skip the test, you're getting an F.
Yeah, you could be.
You have to do the test.
You could be Albert Einstein and skip the test, and
You still got an F because you
Still got
skipped the test. So talking to God is important. Finding out what his will is important. Even if you already know it, talk to him. Talk to him. Sometimes you'll be surprised you didn't really know his will. Sometimes you'll find out you did know his will, and that's a huge blessing. Yeah, Anthony.
May I relieve myself in the mail laboratory?
You may. The mail lavatory is at your disposal, sir.
What?
He was using the big words. Alright, so David drops off the ark at this spot in Obed-Edom, and this has got to be the weirdest thing in the world. Okay, first you've got the little village where like the 300,000 guys show up and they take the ark. Now you've got this little village of like, a few hundred people with 300,000 guys showing up, and they're all in a very different state of mind now. Okay, when they showed up to village 1 to take the ark, they were like, huzzah, yeah! And when they showed up to village 2, they're all like, a guy just died. This is the worst. And they go to Obed-Edom and they find this one guy and they're like, will you take the ark? He just killed someone. Very different. Very different vibe, okay? 300,000 guys all showing up slightly depressed, their party crushed. We have something that kills people and we want you to hold on to it for us. But here's the thing. The guy takes it. He's willing to take it. And God sees his heart that he's willing to look after something of God's despite the risk. And God says, I'm going to bless you for that. Thank you for looking after my throne. Thank you for looking after my stuff. I'm going to bless you. So the whole time it's there in his house, God is just constantly blessing this guy. I think that's pretty cool. Then we get into chapter 14.
Just money spawns right next to him.
Just money spawn. Yeah, that'd be great. Every morning you wake up, it's like the Tooth Fairy times 100. Then King Hiram of Tyre. So this is like a foreign city. It's not part of the nation of Israel. It's just right on their border. It's such a rich trade city. This falls into the old concept of city-state. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this concept. Different points in history, city-states were more and less popular, but they existed until just even a few hundred years ago. It was a city that was so rich and so powerful, it was able to stay independent from other countries. And it acted as a country, even though it was essentially one city and its little surrounding farmland. So it had all the rights of a country, it had all the systems of a country.
It just wasn't big enough.
It just wasn't physically larger than one city. Some were like two sister cities that like got so big that they ended up touching as the borders grew out, and like they would turn into a city-state because they like instantly doubled in size when the two cities touched. So Tyre's one of those. Tyre has a sister city called Sidon at a latter part in history. At this point, I think it's more like the shepherd town near Tyre. Sidon is just like that one little thing you go to raise your sheep, and then you come back to Tyre. Tyre's right on the coast. You can get your ships in and out of port. It sticks out on the landscape. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the way that bays form, but a sticky outy bit on the land forms this little thing called a bay automatically. That's just how seas and oceans work. And it creates less strong waves as a consequence. So if you start your city on one of these little juts of land, you end up with a better place to dock your ships than the guy down the road. It's just a better place. So Tyre was this place. It became incredibly rich, super powerful, eventually absorbed Sidon, and people would refer to it later in history as Tyre and Sidon. They use both names. And so this king is like one of the richest independent kings near David that hasn't really ever fought David. They've never been at war. They've never had words. There's no bad blood between them. This is just another king nearby. Okay, so here's what happens. King Hiram of Sidon, this is chapter 14, sent messengers to David along with cedar timber and stone masons and carpenters to build him a palace. And David realized that the Lord had confirmed him as king over Israel and had greatly blessed his kingdom for the sake of his people, Israel. Then David married more wives in Jerusalem, and they had more sons and daughters. These are the names of David's sons who were born in Jerusalem: Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Elpelet, Nogab, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Eliada, and Eliphalet. Eliphalet. I like that one. That one's fun to say. So, this king bringing gifts thing, we'll see this again later. If you go read 2 Samuel, you'll see a few of those. Later, when his son, David's son Solomon, takes the throne, you'll see a bunch more. People who have not fought Israel in history tend to like Israel. It's very interesting. They tend to like Israel, and they bring Israel gifts, specifically the king. And this is a pretty cool gift if you're just taking the throne and you just captured a new capital city you're going to make the center of your kingdom. Neighboring king sends you the materials and the experts required to make a legit palace. It's pretty cool. It's a really good gift. You could send like some cool food. You could send some money. It's not quite as cool as, here, let me send you the stuff to make a palace. That's pretty tight. Okay, questions? Yes, hand raised here.
I was just raising my hand because they were
Really? You got nothing to say?
Yeah.
That's weird. You got something, Carter?
Okay, so right below, like above whatever the one that starts with a K, and then below tired, what is all the space in the middle?
This?
Yeah, all of that.
Mostly Israel.
So zero.
Yeah. So the capital of Israel is in the south of Israel. The country only goes a little bit past Jerusalem, not very much. I mean, relatively. You know, not as much down there. This is most of Israel, and then right up across the northern border is Tyre. It runs right up to Tyre. It goes a little further north, but it goes further north inland. Like the border is this shape.
So there's just no cities in
There's
that
a
area?
ton of cities.
Oh.
I didn't want to confuse you. There's hundreds of cities.
Oh, okay.
Because these are the only ones mentioned in the verse.
Oh, okay.
So those are the ones I stuck on the map.
So is that just a bunch of land?
Yeah. So in Google Earth, you can turn on all cities, but they're modern cities. So I shut off all cities, and then I add back in the ancient cities that we're actually talking about. So on a different day of the week, or a different Sunday of the month, rather, you'll see different cities on here, because those are the ones we're talking about in that chapter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is the only distance they had to cover with the ark, a small distance in comparison. This is the king across their border that sent him gifts. Quite a large distance. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
I'm just giving you some scale, just showing you where things are.
Okay, to send all those gifts, it's probably be easiest just to take a boat around.
Oh, for sure, except David hasn't conquered the Philistines yet. They own all this coastland. Like all the way up until about here, the Philistines have all that coast. They were actually a seafaring people. They would nomad around before they landed in Israel. Their history is on islands and other people's coastlines. And they would just use boats as their retreat. If you ever tried to go conquer them, they just all get in their boats and leave shore until you got tired and left. And they come back on shore and they take their cities back. It was a genius strategy. It's really hard to chase someone if you don't have boats.
Just flaming arrows.
Yeah.
Just wrap
Anthony.
some cloth around it.
So judging by the scale of like the fake waves,
Yeah.
not fake, but like
Those waves are fake. They add this back.
I was about to say like
Yeah,
are
those
those
are
all
fake
like
waves.
giant tsunamis?
Yeah, no, totally fake waves. Google Earth will show you the real waves if you zoom in far enough, but when you zoom out, they turn them fake because it's wasted data. They know you're not really looking for waves. You're
What
looking
if
for
you
something
are?
on land. Well, then I don't know. I guess you zoom in. That'd be weird. Who's gonna look for a wave? It's a frozen snapshot of a wave from like
What
5
do you-
years ago.
What if you're a physical ocean?
No, my goodness, you're not gonna use that. You're gonna go out on a boat. All right.
What if you don't have no?
You guys are having a lot of private conversations. Do you have anything you want to add to the whole group? Nothing?
Really?
Okay. All right, let's keep reading. Verse 8. Badoo. I'm gonna zoom on in.
Yes.
Where are the waves?
Oh, we're back over
They're
here.
cropped out. Notice we added some yellow over here. That's what's gonna come up now. Okay, verse 8. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over all Israel, they mobilized all their forces to capture him. David's history with the Philistines is long and rich. He killed Goliath. That was his start. Goliath was the champion of the Philistines.
Like 9
Years
foot.
later, he was in Saul's army, fighting the Philistines constantly. Years later after that, Saul had turned on David. David was on the run. He sought refuge in Philistia, and the king of Philistia allowed him to have his own city in Philistine territory. And he tricked the Philistines into thinking he was truly an anti-Israelite. And they believed him. And then when he flipped back and became the king of Israel, they thoroughly hated him.
There's a cut.
Thoroughly, yes.
With having the city in the Philistia, would that be kind of like Kansas City or like Kansas capital being in Arkansas?
No, because he didn't keep it as his capital. It was just like a borough. It'd be like an American trader going and getting his own town in Canada, and then switching back afterwards and becoming like the president. And Canada's like, what the heck, dude? We were giving you refuge. We thought your country hated you. How come you're the president now? But I guess it'd be a better analogy if we had an enemy we were at war with over our border. We don't right now. But like, if we had an enemy we're at war with over our border, that's what it's like. So Israel and Philistia are fighting. They're at war for decades. David is the main anti-Philistine like soldier dude who just like kills Philistines all day long. Then he seeks refuge over there and says, I'm but a lonely servant to king. Oh, I don't want to die. And they're like, yes, we'll hide you. Come hide within our borders. And then he switches back and he's the king. And now he's leading everyone against the Philistines again. So they feel betrayed because they took in a former enemy and like forgave him to some degree. They were willing to let him live there. And secretly, while he was living there, he was secretly killing Philistines.
Yeah.
He was fighting the Philistines the whole time. So they figured David out now, and they hate him so much that when they hear he's coronated, they're like, okay, that's it. Game over. We're going. And they just get the whole army together. They want to steamroller Israel. They want to get rid of David. They hate him so much now. But when David was told that they were coming, he marched out to meet them. Verse 9, the Philistines arrived and made a raid in the valley of Rephaim. So David asked God, should I go out to fight the Philistines? Will you hand them over to me? Look at this. This is key. He has immediately learned from his past mistake. Remember how he thought, get the ark, that's a good idea.
Put it on a cart.
Put it on a cart, that's a good idea. And he didn't ask God. He just said it out loud to the air, if it's God's will. But he didn't ask him.
Done.
So now he sees enemies who want to kill him, and instead of being like, come on boys, let's get them, because he has a big army now, he could do that. His first reaction is, hey God, am I supposed to go fight them? It's one of those things that most people would take for granted. Everyone wants to kill you. Should you defend yourself?
Should I
Well,
defend?
I mean, yeah, duh, right? And he's like, no, I've learned this one. I don't say yes or no automatically. I say, God, what do I do? He's learned. He is king, but he's not meant to be solely in charge. He's meant to go to God and ask God. Yeah.
Why would they let him back if they destroyed, if he killed their best man?
There was years in between. So there was several decades.
I think they just kind of forgot.
So the timeline is he kills Goliath. Then he's just like a normal commander in the army. He commands like a few hundred guys. He's still killing Philistines during that time. Then Saul turns out to hate him and want him dead. Even the Philistines hear about that. Even the Philistines hear that the Israelite king is trying to kill David in Israel. So when David shows up on their doorstep in Philistia, they know why he's running. They know it's legit, that the king of Israel wants him dead. So their thought process is something like, if the king of Israel wants him dead, that means he's not our enemy anymore. Does that kind of make sense in a weird way?
Yeah, it does.
If an American soldier was suddenly hunted by the American government, other governments would assume he's not very American anymore.
Yeah.
Does that kind of track? So the Philistines go, oh, well, he's not an Israelite anymore because the Israelites want him dead. And they decide to take him in. The thinking there was, he is an expert soldier and he's an expert commander. Maybe we can use him to fight Israel. He knows their tactics. He knows all their hideouts. He's going to be our secret weapon. So they give him a city, but it's all an act. And David secretly is killing people in his little neck of the woods in Philistia. And he doesn't kill a couple here and there. He wipes out whole villages at a time, so there's no survivors to report who did it. It's nuts. The king never really figures this out until after David's gone. So then there's a time when Philistia and Israel are back in open warfare. David shows up to fight, and all the little generals under the king of Philistia say, don't let him fight. We think he's going to flip during battle and suddenly turn on us, and he'll be inside our platoons when he flips, and all his men will flip. And they'll be behind our lines killing our soldiers. And then we'll effectively be surrounded. So king, don't let him fight, and they send David home. When they send David home, a weird little thing happens. A bunch of the Israelites from across the enemy lines chase him and go home with him. So David shows up that day to battle with 600 dudes. He goes home with a few thousand. And the Philistines watch it happen. So then they're like, oh, I knew it. He is still in tight with the Israelites. And they're starting to piece together that it's really just David and Saul that hate each other. It's really just the king that hates David. It's not all the Israelites that hate David. And when they start to figure that out, they start to piece together the truth of what's going on. It's not that he's not Israelite anymore. It's that the king just doesn't like him. So then he has to run back to Israel. He has to leave Philistia. And Saul dies right around the same time. So it all kind of works out. And then he becomes king shortly after. So that's sort of the series of events. There was enough little weird details to make them sort of believe him. But then they figured it out in the end, and they realized he's totally anti-Philistines. He's totally pro-Israel. We were tricked. Yeah.
I think David, his thought process during all of this, he's like, I'm living rent-free, free food. I got all my men living rent-free, free food. And I'm going to go backstab you guys by killing all you people. You're not even going to know it.
The only problem with that is he didn't ask God if he should do that too.
Yeah.
He just did it on his own. and murdering whole villages, as far as I can tell, was not on God's to-do
Yeah,
list for him.
I think that's
Pretty sure that was not on the to-do
Yeah,
list.
I'm pretty
So,
sure that's it.
That
Good
was a bad day, a bad idea. All right, so back here. Let's see. Did we read verse 12 yet? No, we didn't quite get there. Okay. God's answer. He actually prays this time. He says, "Will you hand them over to me?" Verse 10, the ending. The Lord replied, "Yes. Go ahead. I will hand them over to you." So verse 11. David and his troops went up to Perazim, and defeated the Philistines there. God did it, David exclaimed. Ooh, I love that. He gives God the credit. He asks God for permission. He asks God for his will. He wins the battle. What does he do? He gives God the credit. That is a good man right there. He used me to burst through the enemies like a raging flood. So they named that place Baal Perazim, which means the Lord who bursts through. See the Peraz in there and the Perazim burst through? The Philistines had abandoned their gods there, so David gave orders to burn them. That is a lovely picture. The Philistines had all these fake gods that they worshiped, and they made them with their own hands. All these little carved idols. Some were gold, some were wood. You know, they had all these different materials they make them out of. But any god you make, any god some other human makes, is a fake god. They
What if
can't
God
possibly
makes it?
be. No. Not even that. Not even that. Because then you could claim that angels or Satan or someone was God too. And that doesn't make any sense. Because what is God? What is the concept? When you say the word God, what are you referring to? What does that word hold for you? What does that mean?
God, that's what it means.
You're not wrong, but it doesn't help. What's the definition? What is divinity? What does that mean?
Savior.
Does it just mean something I worship?
Nope, Savior.
Because if it just meant something I worship, then that would mean like suddenly money could be God, people could be God, popularity could be God, and like that's a dangerous concept if that's all God
Yeah.
means.
A
Something
lot
I
of people
worship.
think it.
That's not a great idea for God. Because then that means inherently you've decided that it's okay to worship things that will hurt you. You've decided it's okay to worship things that will fail you. You've decided it's okay to worship things that will not help you.
That's the government.
That's a bad idea. Dude, politics is a god to some people. They really truly worship politics as if it was God, like it's going to fix all their problems.
Like politics?
But it ends up
It
taking all,
hasn't happened yet, so I'm not sure why they still have faith in it.
and then the IRA starts taking all their money.
You mean IRS, but yes.
IRS.
IRA is something else. Usually you put your money into an IRA willingly, but that's that's a financial thing. So what does God actually mean? What would the list be? If you had to make a list, like you must qualify for the job, like there's a job listing out there, come try out, you can get the job as God. What would the qualification list look like? What would you have to be God?
Not human.
Perfect, that's one, I like that.
Not human.
Not human.
Well, not human I think is an interesting one, but I'll take it.
There was Jesus.
You might have to be missing certain qualities of humanity,
Yeah, like you have to be perfect.
like being perfect.
Loving.
What?
Loving.
You have to be loving? Why would you have to be loving to be God? I know God's loving, but I'm saying on the qualification list, why does loving mean you're God? Or not loving mean you're not God?
I don't know.
Kindness.
Here's a weird conundrum for you, okay? Imagine an all-powerful creator, not the one in the Bible, okay? Just some hypothetical creator, okay? Hypothetical. They don't actually exist. We're just dreaming them up. They have all power, they have all knowledge, they have all wisdom, and
All
they're
kindness.
naturally a hater, not a lover. Would they make other creatures? Would they make other beings?
No.
Right? Like, there wouldn't be any motive to create children, to create a universe of people that can look back at you and love you back. There wouldn't be any motive for that unless you're a loving God. So I think the God that matches this universe, yes, the qualification list has to include loving. If you can come up with some other hypothetical universe, maybe you could take that off the list. But in this universe, it only makes sense for the God of the universe to be loving.
Is there only
Because otherwise, why would he make us capable of that?
Is there only one universe?
Yeah.
He said to say understanding.
Understanding? Yeah, I think so. What else?
Galaxies.
Could he have some power and still be God, or does he have to have all power?
Some power.
Some power is enough?
Some people
Okay. What would God be like if he could make a rock too big for himself to lift?
Wait, what?
What would God be like if he could make a rock too big for himself to lift?
A rock to be. It would be like infinitely big. Because
Right, but then, like, what would he be like?
not powerful.
He'd be not powerful enough or not smart enough?
Yeah.
Not smart.
Right? He's either dumb or
He
weak.
made it too big.
Because he made it too big. Like, he's one of the two.
And he's dumb because he shouldn't have made it that big.
But he has
You follow? You follow? Okay, yeah.
No, I'm thinking, because he's all powerful,
Yeah.
there's no rock that's too big. He could turn himself into a mountain.
So you're saying he's not capable of making anything he wants?
No, he's capable of making anything he wants.
But he can't make rocks that are too big for him to lift.
I think he can't make something
Yeah, he
that's
can't.
too heavy. Because he's all powered.
This is the real question. Is God capable of doing impossible things
Yes.
Yeah.
that are
He makes-
logically impossible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think the answer is no.
I
You're
agree.
insane.
Okay, let me lay this out for you. Have you guys ever seen the DC Universe's Mixed S Spitlick?
No.
You guys ever seen him?
Wait,
What?
I think that is the God that atheists think we believe in.
Wait, what?
It's the God of crazy random happenstance who just like makes things up as he goes, and he can make contradictions. He can break logic in his creations. It's some DC character. He's hilarious sometimes. He's crazy others. But that I think is the God that people think about in philosophy classes. They think of a God that can really do anything, including paradoxes, and I think that's so ridiculous. Because to me, that's a God without a true personality. A true personality says, there is no way I would ever make a rock too big for myself to lift, because that is pointless.
Oh.
He can't make.
No one ever asks what would be the point. They ask if he could, and I think that is so foolish. To ask if God could or could not, but you don't stop to ask, would he? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
There's a lot of things I could do, I will never do. I'm never going to be installing a door in my new house and think, I should put a guillotine hidden inside this door frame. That'd be so hilarious.
That would.
I could show house guests when they come over, this is my watermelon chopper, and I'll like stick the watermelon in the door and like pull the cord and the guillotine slides down the door frame. Zoom. I could, but there's no way I ever would.
It could be a goal.
No.
Do you understand? I would never do that, even though I could do that. If you ever see someone asking that kind of a question, can God make a rock so big he can't lift it? There's variations on that too.
Can I?
The
Can I
realist question
Could he
is,
make a watermelon
why
too
would
big
any God I would care to know, any God that I would care to follow, any God I would care to worship, do such a thing? Why would that God even spend time thinking about such a thing? What a waste of his time. And so when David talks to him and he says, will you let me win? And God says, yes, I will let you win. And then David gives him credit. God did it. And then they find all these wooden carved things. You got to understand what they're finding is people's mistakes. The Philistines run off the battlefield and they leave behind their gods. And I think this is such a true thing for humans, even in modern times. People worship money.
Mhm.
And they keep worshiping money until they find out they have cancer and they're dying.
And they're just like, why? I don't have to.
That's not a joke. I'm dead serious. People worship popularity, and they keep worshiping popularity until their friend dies. Something serious, something real happens. People worship stuff, and they keep worshiping stuff until they're broke, and they can't buy stuff anymore.
And then they're just like, God, please give me more money.
Do you get it? Like, there are so many idols in this world that are fake, fake, fake. They don't help you, they don't love you, they can't do anything for you, they're just a thing. And you pour all yourself into it, you pour all your time into it, you pour all your focus into it, and then something real happens, and all of a sudden it's like magic, you stop caring about the thing anymore. It doesn't matter. When they're running off the battlefield, I mean, theologically, philosophically, hypothetically, they should be carrying the idol, praying to the idol as they're running. Please, little wooden statue I made last Tuesday, save me. If they really believed in it, if they really thought it was real, if they really thought this God was a God, they wouldn't drop it. It would be their whole focus as their life is on the line. Please save me. But in their heart of hearts, they knew it wasn't. They were never deceived into thinking this wooden idol created the world. They watched the guy carve it. There's no way an idol you made last Tuesday made the universe a few thousand years before. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Money doesn't care about you. Social media doesn't care about you. Your video games don't care about you.
Obviously.
Your books don't care about you. Some of your friends don't even care about you.
Yep.
My video games hate me. My friends hate me.
But this is it. This is really what it comes down to. The real God, the one that's worth believing in, the one that's worth following,
What did I say?
he does care about you. That makes all the difference in the world. Because then when you're running for your life, you can pray and he hears you. Then when you're not sure what to do and you ask him, he'll tell you. Then when your world is falling apart, he'll pick you up and hold you in his hands. That makes all the difference. The fact that he's a real person and he really loves you makes all the difference. Suddenly, can he make a rock too big for himself to lift? Really doesn't matter.
Can I
It really doesn't matter. Because what really matters is he exists and he likes you. He wants to help you. That makes all the difference. And that's why David praised him. And he gave God the credit. And he named the place God. Burst through. Verse 13. But after a while, the Philistines returned and raided the valley again. And once again, David asked God what to do. I love it. He is just like doing it right this time. It's a repeat of last time. Of course, I could just do the same thing and it would work the same, right? No. I go to God and I ask him again. Because it's fresh. The relationship is real. It's not just knowledge about God. You need to actually talk to God. And once again, David asked God what to do. Verse 14, do not attack them straight on. Oh, it's not different. Wait, it is different. It's not the same. God replied, instead, circle around behind and attack them near the poplar trees. When you hear a sound like marching feet in the tops of the poplar trees, go out and attack. That will be the signal that God is moving ahead of you to strike down the Philistine army. So David did what God commanded, and they struck down the Philistine army all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. So David's fame spread everywhere, and the Lord caused all the nations to fear David. This is really cool. Gezer is right on Philistine territory. See that red over there? This is the Philistine portion of the map. This is Israel. They fought them all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. Now the best part about that, the battle was down here. That means that as the Philistines came over from the red territory, and they come up the valley, and they're sneaking up the valley to try and get to Jerusalem and hit the capital, they're still in like mid-sneak, and David goes down and around. He gets in the same valley they entered in, and he comes up the valley. So they're sneaking towards Jerusalem, and there's no army there. The army's behind them. Last time they fought him head on, and God made sure they won anyways. So David could have just assumed, yeah, let's do it the same as last time. But he doesn't. He talks to God, and God says, no, I got a better one. I got a better one. You're going to like this one, David. Take your hundreds of thousands of troops. Go pile into the valley right behind them. I wonder what it'd be like to be the last guy in the Philistine ranks. You're like the last dude. You're in the very back of the Philistine army, marching through the valley, trying to sneak up on Jerusalem. Everyone's trying to be quiet, and you start hearing like extra march noises. You're like, what? What is that? I hear something. And you're like tapping the guy next to you. You hear that? What's going on? I hear extra. I thought we were the last battalion. I thought we were the back of the formation. What's going on? Like, they must have brought in some more troops. Because remember, in that direction is Philistia. So if there's troops coming in the back of the valley, then sure, that's probably more Philistine troops. And then they're going to sneak up on them, and then God says, I want you to wait. That would have been hard once you actually get there. It's easy to take that command and listen to it and hear it and memorize it. Wait until you hear this certain noise, then you can attack. When you actually get there and you're in the valley and it's dark and you're creeping around, sneaking up behind the Philistine army, if you get close, man, you want to start. If you sneak for too long, eventually they're going to hear that twig crack like in the movies and turn their heads around and go, huh? See the army doesn't match, and they'll be like, it's the Israelites! And then, like, the whole jig is up. It'd be hard to just keep your cool, don't attack, don't attack, don't attack. But how cool would it have been when you actually hear God's signal? And up in the treetops, all along the ridges on the valley, you hear angelic troops running on the treetops, racing ahead of you to start the fight without you. How incredibly sweet would that be? As a soldier, to know that God's soldiers are going to get there first. They're going to start the battle for you.
It's gonna like make some soldiers drop dead.
it certainly has happened before. We don't get an exact telling of that event here. It was dark and they weren't yet together when it starts. But we do see other stories in the Bible where God's angels go and fight humans, and the humans don't have a chance, and in some cases the angels just stayed invisible while they were fighting the humans. So the humans were just like completely out of luck. They had no chance.
They couldn't be
Invisible super soldiers that outnumber you.
That hurt.
Oh my gosh,
I
yeah.
feel like one invisible super soldier.
Oh no, we have that too. That's in the Bible too. One angel taking out a whole army. We have that one too. We have both instances. Okay, so they're sneaking up. They follow God's command. And yeah, they win. And they not only win, but this is my favorite part. The retreat goes like this. First they retreat to Gibeon. It's not actually a retreat. You get it? Like, they're just running any way they can. There's no actual decision making going on. They just come out of the mouth of the valley over here and go, "Ah!" And they run all the way up to Gibeon. They have no chance to control the formations. They have no chance to control their men. They're just running for their lives. And when they get to Gibeon, there's like, some attempt to try and stand and fight. They have to retreat again. But this time they know where they are, and they're not stuck in a valley. So they actually go the right way. They go back towards Philistia. And they just run and die the whole way.
They run that whole way?
The whole night. They're just running from Gibeon to Gezer.
Yeah, people back then couldn't run
At
pretty
least
far.
they didn't go to North. At least they didn't go to North Korea.
This is true, although North Korea didn't exist yet.
Oh yeah, it is awesome.
This is like 1000 BC. All right, then we get into chapter 15. We'll go through this pretty quick because David's super famous now. Philistines are scared of him now. They're not going to be fighting him the same way they used to be. So this is modern day Israel on the satellite photography, because clearly we don't have satellite photography from 1000 BC.
Israel's that small?
3,000 years ago.
looks kinda
Well,
weird.
this is weird. This little portion right here, this is the portion that David built. His city was really small back then because it really started as just a fortress. It wasn't like a whole giant city. It was just the fortress, okay? Just the military complex and his little palace, that's it. Eventually you get stuff added on, like the temple complex, more parts of the city add on. Some of this is not all modern. Some of this is not, done in the last few hundred years. Some of these parts are still thousands of years old. But this part is 3,000 years old, okay? Which is, it matters. Like the difference between 3,000 and 2,000 is still 1,000 years. So the city grows over those 3,000 years up until today. And it kind of moves out in a circle, like a target, like rings keep on building on to the city as time goes on. And some of those rings happened right during David's time, right during Solomon's time. So not all the rings were, 1,000 years apart or something like that. That some of them happened really fast. But initially, when David first takes the city, it's just this. It's real small. Real small. Yeah, Patrick.
I'm weirded out that there's some 3D parts and a bunch the
Yeah,
rest is
Google gets submissions from artists to put up 3D models of really famous locations. And then the other locations are kind of 3D because they did some LiDAR satellites that actually measure distance with light travel speeds. And so there's some minor 3D on the small houses and little buildings and stuff. And then there's famous spots like this one where someone actually did a real, I got my tape measure out, reconstruction of the entire building in 3D in Blender or something. And they upload it to Google, and Google has that now plugged in on the earth right where the real building is. And so it's a little better than the little LiDAR pop-up they do for trees and houses and stuff. So yeah, you get different levels all over the place. Like this one has a mixture. There's some 3D from the LiDAR going on here, and then there's some 3D from a 3D model going on here. It's all right in the same spot. It's kind of weird. Yeah.
Would the part that David built, would that be the center of Jerusalem now?
It is roughly, it's a little lopsided now, but if you go back in history, it's dead center. But it also has a border right here. So it's only dead center in the one axis. It spread out like this from it. It didn't spread out evenly like this. Does that kind of make sense? So on the map, it spread faster that direction than it did in this direction, but it spread out kind of evenly that way and this way. Does that kind of make sense? It's a little lumpy. Yeah, Carter.
I wonder if they had a capital city a dead center in their area, and then they expanded one direction by 1 inch.
Yeah.
Would that be dead center still?
No. But I mean, it's all relative. We're talking about building size, city size things. So dead center is very rough. We're talking about a city that's over a mile long. Dead center is pretty rough. Okay.
Wait, that whole area just there's a mile?
No, I don't have the scale up. Don't quote me on the exact mileliness of it. We can
That's
measure it
probably
later.
less than a mile.
What you see on screen might be less than a mile, but the city's more. All right, let's finish off 15, then we'll be done. David now built several buildings for himself in the city of David. That's the little blue spot on the map. He also prepared a place for the Ark of God and set up a special tent for it. Then he commanded, no one except the Levites may carry the Ark of God. The Lord has chosen them to carry the Ark of the Lord and to serve him forever. Ah, he got it right this time. Only have the Levites do it, and they're going to carry it. No carts this time. Then David summoned all Israel to Jerusalem to bring the Ark of the Lord to the place he had prepared for it. This is the number of the descendants of Aaron, the priests, and the Levites who were called together. From the clan of Kohath, 120, with Uriel as their leader. From the clan of Merari, 220, with Asai as their leader. From the clan of Gershon, 130, with Joel as their leader. From the descendants of Elizaphan, 200, from Shemaiah as their leader. From the descendants of Hebron, 80, with Eliel as their leader. From the descendants of Uzziel, 112, with Aminadab as their leader.
I love how all those names are like super like extremely complex and just like.
Well, Hebrew names are made differently than ours. We can talk about it another time.
And then
They,
there's just
they put them together from pieces. They use puzzle pieces to make their names, so their names are like a little mini sentence. They say something. Like we saw the places got named today, and they meant, God burst through, or Uzziel got burst through. Like those place names are the same way they name their kids. Their kids' names meant something. So like Daniel's a Hebrew name. It means God is my judge. There's actual word pieces in Daniel that make these sentences up. So like Dan means judge, I means me, and El means God. And they read backwards, so it's God, my judge. Does that kind of make sense? All their names are like that. They generally all have some little sentence buried in the name.
My name.
So some of their names are long, because they have a longer sentence.
My name means highly praised one in royalty.
There you go. All right, so then, verse 11, David summoned the priests Zadok and Abiathar, and these Levite leaders, Uriel, I think it is, Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, and Aminadab. He said to them, you are the leaders of the Levite families. You must purify yourselves and all your fellow Levites so you can bring the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel, to the place I have prepared for it. Because the Levites did not carry the ark for the first time, the anger of the Lord, our God, burst out against us. We failed to ask God how to move it properly. He recognizes his mistake in detail. So the priests and the Levites purified themselves in order to bring the ark of the Lord and the God of Israel to Jerusalem. Then the Levites carried the ark of God on their shoulders with its carrying poles, just as the Lord had instructed Moses. Yes! They did it right this time. David also ordered the Levite leaders to appoint a choir of Levites who were singers and musicians to sing joyful songs to the accompaniment of harps, lyres, and cymbals. So the Levites appointed Haman, son of Joel, along with his fellow Levites, Asaph, son of Berechiah, and Ethan, son of Cushiah, from the clan of Merari. The following men were chosen as their assistants: Zechariah, Jaziel, Shemiramoth, ooh, that's a good one, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Benaiah, Messiah, Mattathiah, oh, I like this one, Eliphelahu, Micneiah, and the gatekeepers Obed-Edom and Jael. The musicians Heman, Asaph, and Ethan were chosen to sound the bronze cymbals. Zechariah, Aziel, Shemiramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Messiah, and Benaiah were chosen to play the harps. Mattathiah, Eliphelahu, Micneiah, Obed-Edom, Jael, and Azaziah were chosen to play the lyres. Kenaniah, the head Levite, was chosen as the choir leader because of his skill. Ooh, so he had a good voice. Berechiah and Elkanah were chosen to guard the ark. Shebaniah, Joshaphat, he's so cool. Nethanel, Amasai, Zechariah, Benaiah, and Eleazar, all of whom were priests, were chosen to blow the trumpets as they marched in front of the ark of God. Obed-Edom and Jehiah were chosen to guard the ark. Whew! All right, so we've got this huge list of people. But the important part was this. The reason they gave all the names was because they wanted to give you the receipts. They wanted to give you the proof They didn't just say they did God's will. They really did it. God's will was that the Levites would do these jobs and no one else. Only the people who were sons of Aaron were going to have these special jobs, and Levites were going to have these second special jobs. Only them and no one else. And the only proof they had was by naming them. And remember, we got the family trees in the first chapters of 1 Chronicles. So by having those names, you knew exactly who these guys were. It was the proof they had actually gone through with what they said. We're going to follow God's rules on this. We're going to move the ark properly. We're going to staff the ark properly. Yeah, question.
How do you think they got the name Eliphelehu and Joshua?
I gotta look it up. I don't actually know that one. We'll go look up the roots. I know that El is God, so his name means something about God. We'll have to figure out what the other parts of his name are and what they mean.
Wait,
I don't know the one off the top of my head. Jehoshaphat. I know Jehoshaphat. He's famous, but Jehoshaphat, I forgot that one.
Jehoshaphat?
Yeah, Jehoshaphat's a famous king. All right, now we get into the last section. And we get a weird little twist. A weird little detail, a little bit of marital strife at the end of this. Then David and the elders of Israel, the generals of the army, went to the house of Obed-Edom to bring the ark of the Lord's covenant up to Jerusalem with a great celebration. So they got the whole party going again. This is a while later, but this time they're doing it right. It's all Levites doing all the important jobs. Girls? Verse 26, and because God was clearly helping the Levites as they carried the ark of the Lord's covenant, they sacrificed 7 bulls and 7 rams. So they went knowing what God expected. They did it God's way, and when no one died, they threw a barbecue. Like literally, last time someone died, and they were all depressed about it, this time, no one died. And they're like, yes!
Barbecue!
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 I like that. I like that.
America.
David was dressed in a robe of fine linen, as were all the Levites who carried the ark, and also the singers, and Kenaniah the choir leader, and David was also wearing a priestly garment. Now, priestly garment in this case means linen ephod. So it wasn't strictly a priestly garment, but it was meant to look the part. He was trying to put on what we would think of as a suit, right? He was trying to put on something special. So it's a linen ephod. That means it has a different cut and a different fabric from the average everyday clothing that he would wear. So he was dressed up for the occasion. So all Israel brought the ark of the Lord's covenant with shouts of joy, the blowing of ram's horns and trumpets, the crashing of cymbals, loud playing on harps and lyres. It's an outright jam, just going down the road with God's ark. All right, now, last verse, and this is the weird little twist, verse 29. But as the ark of the Lord's covenant entered the city of David, Michal, this is David's first wife, the daughter of Saul, looked down from her window. And that means that the palace they live in is now at least 2 stories, because she's looking down from her window. Remember all the stuff got sent from Tyre up north? They have a 2-story palace, maybe 3, who knows? She's looking down from her window. When she saw King David skipping about and laughing with joy, she was filled with contempt for him.
I forgot what that means.
Contempt means a special kind of hatred. It means I don't like what you're doing. So David is acting like a child in the streets, wearing his fancy dress, wearing his suit, okay? So the Ark of the Lord is coming into the city. David's all dressed for the occasion. He looks extra special, extra formal. And when she looks out her window, she doesn't see him acting formal like a king, walking through the streets, riding his fancy white horse. She sees him laughing, giggling, singing at the top of his lungs, skipping and bouncing and dancing through the streets. And she sees that, and it rubs her completely the wrong way. She just does not like this. She's like, he is supposed to be a king. Now remember, of all of his wives, she is a princess. She is the last king's daughter. So when she sees her husband, the king, recently coronated, he's a new king, and he's down there acting like a child, she looks down on him. And I mean that in both senses. She looks down on him. She thinks that is a lowly thing that he's doing. And I think it's not. I think it's not lowly. I think it's very important to address the context when you see someone doing something, right? If you're punching someone, I'm going to be upset with you, unless, of course, you're in a boxing ring and wearing gloves and the ref is there watching with his little whistle in his mouth. Then I wouldn't be mad. The context completely repaints the picture of whatever it is you're doing. Do you get that? You're punching someone in every other context, I'm going to get in your way. But there's that one little context. we're boxing with the gloves on, with the ref watching. Where it's like, oh, well then that's fine then. And that's the way it is with David. David's a king. Yes, he should act proper. Yes, he should act regal. Yes, he should be someone that everyone else can respect and look up to. But when he is following the Lord, and the Lord is having his way, and the Lord's most important physical object on this earth is coming into David's new city, and the capital's coming together, it's all coming together, I'm following God, it's all working, and he's just overfilled with joy enough to sing and dance. I think contextually it's totally fine for a king to sing and dance through the streets. Contextually, I think that's the perfect time, the only time for a king to be dancing and singing through the streets. Is when he's just overfilled with the joy of the Lord. That is a beautiful time. Likewise, there are other things that are only right in context. They're only right in context. And there are contexts that will undo the rightness of things. So, for instance, how many places is it cool to tell a joke? Most places, right? Who said funeral?
Funeral.
Someone just, you guys knew it. You knew where I was going. How weird is it if someone tells a joke at a funeral?
It's
It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. Okay, now, I don't know if you guys know, most people who are part of our church, Calvary Chapel Chico, and they die, their family doesn't give them a funeral. Most people who come to Calvary Chapel Chico, when they die, their family doesn't give them a funeral. They have like a memorial service, or they have a celebration of life service. Because they treat the person's body as dead, they treat the person as alive. They treat the person as alive in heaven. And they treat the body as dead. And so in their mind, yeah, it's sad I don't get to be with them, but they don't really treat the person as dead. So if you were to have a funeral, everyone's walking around, you're treating that person as dead. Like they're over, they're gone, they're done. You will never ever find out anything about them ever again. Their life is kaput. That's a funeral. But the people who come here understand that when we die, our physical body dies, we are separated from it, and we get to be in heaven with the Lord. Our spirit is there with him. And we ourselves, that's us. Our body is just a part of us. It's us, but it's not all of us.
Our soul is what matters.
Yeah, well, I think our body matters too.
Well, it does.
But if I had to pick one, you're right.
It's how I can eat
I'd pick
food.
my soul.
And if I
I'd
can't
pick
eat
my
food,
soul.
I would die.
But we don't have to pick. We just have to wait. That's it. We just have to wait. God's going to bring our bodies back. He's going to make them perfect and eternal. And he's going to reunite our soul and our body once they're made perfect and eternal. That's pretty cool. So again, why would you mourn? Why would you have a funeral? Dun, 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 dun. When the body's going to get back up again. The body's going to be made perfect and whole and well and eternal. Like, why would you have a pity party over that? It's just temporary. It's just temporary. But the context is key. You go telling a joke at a funeral where everyone's all sad and mourning, you look insensitive. You look like a mean person. But you're telling a joke, that's usually a happy thing. It's the same way, same thing both ways. So the context is key. David, though, I think him acting like a child is completely appropriate because of what he's been learning in these years. David in these years has been learning to be humble and to know his place. And in the face of Almighty God and God getting his way, he is but a child. Does that make sense? Like, in comparison to God, adults are closer to children than they are to him. Do you get that? God is so high above us. Children and adults, babies and adults, we are closer together than any of us are to him. In terms of power, in terms of maturity, in terms of wisdom. He is so far beyond us. So David is humble, and so when he acts like a child, I think it's actually appropriate because he realizes his place in all this. I am the king of a nation, but before God I am lowly.
You're just a baby.
I'm just to God? Yeah. I've lived for so many years, God's lived for eternity. How do you put that into a fraction? Ask your math teacher, what's a number over infinity?
Infinity.
Infinity and
You know what I mean? Like figure that fraction out. So humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time he will lift you up in honor. Give all your worries and cares to God, for he cares about you. This is from 1 Peter. It's in the New Testament. It's written by one of Jesus' apostles. David finally figured this out. He went to war after he said, God, what should I do? And he did that twice, and he won twice. Really simple. Really easy. Right? Isn't it easy? To just always pray? Is it? Why isn't that easy?
Spiritual warfare.
It's part of it, yeah. Why isn't it easy to always pray? Shouldn't that be easy? Just always pray.
Sometimes I forget.
I'll give you guys a leg up on the competition. You ready? This is it. This is the secret. This is the secret. If you want to pray more, just pray.
Yeah.
We're gonna do that right now. We're gonna pray.
Oh.
Let's pray. Every time you pray more. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Lord, we come to you asking for your guidance in our life. Where there's decisions, Lord, we want there to be you. We want you to be there in the midst of that decision. We want you to make the decision with us and for us. We want to know what your plan is. So, Lord, help us. Every time we think of our plan and we think, God, bless our plan, just wake us up, Lord. Help us to realize that is not the way to live. We need to be going to you asking for your plan. So, Lord, we're doing that now. As we're thinking of it, when we're thinking of it, just delete our plan, Lord, and give us yours. Give us that direction like we see with David. And Lord, humble us. Help us to realize that when we come to you and we put our faith and our trust in you, we're supposed to let our life, our will, our desires die. You say you've already pinned them to the cross. Lord, give us that new life you talk about. Fill us with your Spirit so that we are just walking in step with you. Lord, with our heads bowed, with our eyes closed, if there's someone here today, I just ask that you would move on their hearts. You would ask them, as I'm about to, will you follow Christ? And then you would just draw them in right now. Help them to make that decision. So if that's you today, you're sitting here with your eyes closed and you're thinking, I need to follow him. I need to give up this life, give up this will. I need to have that new life from him. The Bible says that Jesus died on the cross in our place. He took the punishment we deserve. And then when we place our faith in him and we live for him, he'll forgive us of everything we've ever done, everything we ever will do wrong. And he'll give us a brand new life, an eternal life. One with him that lasts forever. So if you want to take hold of that right now, have your sins forgiven, have a new life with him, be adopted in to his huge extended family, you can do that right now. I would just ask you to raise up your hand, just so I can see that you want it, and I'll pray with you. You get to make that decision. You get to talk to him. There's no magic words, but I'll help you. Sometimes it's hard to find the words. I'll just guide you through, and you can tell him that you want his forgiveness. Tell him that you're going to put your faith in him. Tell him that you are going to give your life to him, and you want the life he can give you. So if that's you, just put up your hand. Anyone this morning? Lord, I thank you for these middle schoolers. Bless them throughout this week. Bless them when they're at home, at school, wherever they may go. Help them be a light in the places they find themselves in. May they guide people back to you as they stay humble. Understand that it's your world and they should be following your will. We pray that in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I love you guys. If you want more closeness, we do small groups on Wednesday. Come by on Wednesday.
What was the answer?
2. Do you have?
No, I don't.
No, nothing.
Daniel,
Yep.
we're playing Zeke this.
Oh yeah, I was gonna do the phone bucket then. You guys should wait the 5 seconds extra.
Daniel.
And also get off the stage.
My ride's probably here.
That is a lot of food.
Bruh, you said glitter sticks.
I was just making up stuff. That's why I made a joke about it. Wow. She actually believes me. This is dangerous.
I need to get a new phone.
It's called sarcasm. All right, who's be this?
Who's flip phone?
Does this even work? Someone put a broken phone on my phone.
Then I won.
Seriously, whose is this? Is this Grace's broken phone she forgot here from Wednesday? I think it is. Okay, yeah, you won. Good job.
Hey, I got
He gets a free thing for the snack bar, worth $2.
You better get me something.
All right, Emily, Drake won the phone bucket. Drake won the phone bucket.
You gotta show me how to do it. Oh, wait, second over. Second over there.
Oh, you guys want to do Zeitgeist?
What?
Or are you stacking
No,
chairs?
second it.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what he was going to show you. I was trying to think of the list of things that Anthony could show you that you would actually do up here.
Actually.
It was not a big list in my head. I was struggling. Okay, that's actually the max on that stack. We'll go 5. No, you're good. You're good. Yours, Anthony. Is just do 5 per stack. Otherwise, they start to get a little wonky. A little crooked, hard to stay standing.
So Jane was both a wildcat and Pokemon, and sometimes a wildcat dressed up like Pokemon.
That sounds right. The Wildcat hadn't come up this morning, just the Pokemon.
Yeah. It was Wildcat second, Seagull first.
Seagull. Did she bring a feather?
No.
Oh, good. She wasn't supposed to. She really wanted to.
Wait, what's happening? Jane has been a variety of animals today.
Thank you.